I have no regrets. Obviously I love the game. I love what, the game gave me personally. I got to travel around the world. I got to play against some of the, the greatest players and players that you see on TV now today playing the postseason, like Adley Rutschman.
Welcome to episode 248 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. We hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving long weekend. It was certainly a busy one with lots of different events going on along with the MLB playoffs. So let's get right to some of the headlines. Congratulations to ATHX Performance out of Edmonton on winning the Harvest Classic hosted by Weber Academy. An unexpected bonus for those taking part in the tournament was Atlanta Braves hurler Michael Soroka and Weber program head Chris Rietsma taking some time to speak with the teams, which is great to see and hear. A tip of the cap as well to the YQL Sluggers out of Lethbridge on winning the 15U AA Championship at the Best of the West Turkey Classic in Kamloops. Speaking of that prestigious Best of the West tournament, a belated tip of the cap to AHP Academy on punching their ticket to the May Showcase next year after a big win back on October 1st. And while they haven't been tournaments, quite a few teams have been playing fall ball over the last few weeks, including the Canadian College Baseball Conference teams like the University of Calgary Dinos, Edmonton Collegiate Hawks, and Prairie Baseball Academy Dawgs. The Dawgs Academy out of Okotoks and AHP Academy programs have also been touring around a few familiar U.S. college programs. As always, if your team is taking part in events here or elsewhere, make sure to tag us in your social media posts so we can share them with our audiences. Before we get to our guests this week, we do want to send our love and condolences to the families and loved ones of two people with baseball connections who have passed away in recent weeks. Glendon's Perry Lychak was a 5-year member of the Toronto Blue Jays farm team and represented Canada at the 1981 Intercontinental Cup in Edmonton, where he had a memorable performance against Cuba. Canadian Baseball Network's Bob Elliott had a great piece on Lychak recently after he passed away on September 20th. And after a courageous and public battle with ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease, Chris Snow passed away September 30th. Snow, his wife Kelsey, and their 2 kids became inspirational figures for their strength, courage, and resilience during that fight. While their journey is mostly focused on Snow's hockey past, it also has a lot of baseball connections, which our Ian Wilson wrote about in the newest story, which you can find at albertadugoutstories.com. On to this week's guests, and one of the athletes who's garnered a lot of attention lately is Leo Cote. Originally from Quebec, he came to Dawgs Academy to take his game to the next level, and boy, has he certainly achieved that. He took part in the recent Canadian Future Showcase, was named to Canada's junior national team, and seems to always be in the highlights for the Bandito Scout team at the Perfect Game World Wood Bat Championships in Jupiter, Florida. In between flights, the 6'2", 207-pound 17-year-old took some time to chat about his baseball journey with us. Leo, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us here on the podcast.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Fresh off an appearance at the Perfect Game World Wood Bat Championship in Florida. How did things go there from your perspective?
It went pretty well. Got off to a slow start. I had a pretty rough couple first games, but really took off the second half, and me and my team got to make it to the round of 16, which is pretty big when you think about there's only 106 teams that make it to the tournament and get accepted. So it was a good tournament for me and for my team and basically for everyone around me. So
everywhere I turned, it seemed as though your performance at the plate was turning heads, as you mentioned, especially in the latter half of that tournament. What started working for you? What adjustments did you make to make sure that you did leave the tournament on the right foot?
Yeah, the biggest key for me everywhere I go and every coach that has coached me is, can you make adjustments easily? Like, does it take you one game or does it take you 1 month, So for me to be able to listen to my coach and realize that having a long swing and the big step and everything, you just need to keep everything simple. So simpling my swing and making sure everything is easier than it is. Mm-hmm. So
did you find yourself during that tournament in the first couple of games anyways, maybe swinging a little too hard, maybe going for the fences a little bit, or was it just a matter of like, hey, let's make some contact and then build off of that kind of thing?
Yeah, growing up, I was a big power hitter, so I thought that the harder you swing, the harder you hit the ball, but you just got to trust yourself. So yeah, I did find myself in the first couple games trying to swing for the fences, like you said. But yeah, it's easier when you just stay up the middle and let the ball travel,
Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly did that, and you did that as well. You're fresh off the Canadian Future Showcase in Toronto as well. What was that experience like for you?
Um, Canadian Future Showcase was kind of like it was a big tournament for me. It was kind of like my last year kind of showing in front of Canada, right? As a 2024, all those tournaments kind of come to an end after this. College gets serious, and then it's the last time you get to play in front of your parents for a whole week. When you get to college, it's different. And as someone who's moved away, it's fun to always kind of play in Canada and get to showcase. The tournament wise, it went pretty well. It was a big showcase for me as I was trying to get myself a spot on the junior national team, and it worked well for me. Worked out well.
Well, obviously, you did get named to that. We'll chat about that in a second, but I wanted to go back to that tournament. I know last year was in Ottawa. This year, being in the big stadium like Rogers Centre in Toronto, was that a bit of a starstruck moment for you at all? I mean, you're from out east, quote unquote, being from Quebec, but was that a place that you grew up watching and wanting to play in at any point? Did you have to soak in the moment a little bit to say, "Hey, I'm in an MLB ballpark and I get to call this place home for a few days"?
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. You grow up thinking about, wow, Josh Donaldson and all those guys, and now you get to just step on the field, and it's an eye opening for sure. I mean, it's just like any other field, but it's bigger than just that for me. As my younger self would, if my younger self was there, it'd be like, oh my God, Leo, you're playing on the biggest field in Canada, and you get to showcase in front of plenty of scouts and plenty of schools and everything. So it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. As mentioned, that was a springboard for you to get to the junior national team. You're taking part in the upcoming Dominican Fall League, which starts in just a couple of days here. What did it mean to you, first off, to get that recognition and see your name on that roster?
It was honestly, normally when I'm heading to a tournament or to a baseball event, I kind of visualize myself being there, and I see it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to wear this uniform. It's going to be awesome. You kind of have expectations for yourself. But seriously, since I've had the call, I've not been able to kind of realize what it is. I feel like once I get there, it'll be the moment that'll kind of like tell me, oh my God, you're actually like on the junior national team, and you get to wear the leaf and Canada across your chest. So, I haven't really thought about that, but it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. What excites you most about that opportunity, especially to be thought of as one of the best young talents in Canada?
I feel like it's one of those things where you get to kind of showcase that you actually, like, not only you get the recognition, but you can prove that you've been this good and that you are good enough for it. So I think what it means to me for getting the call up is kind of just like, I worked so hard for so many years. I mean, it's my 8th year in baseball, which isn't that much for an athlete, but it's definitely eight years that I put all the work in, and now it pays off, so.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into that a little bit here. Born and raised in Quebec, and who got you into baseball in the first place? Do you remember that moment when you first stepped out into a ball field and said, "Oh, this is kind of cool"?
Yeah, it was pretty weird how I got in. So I used to be a big BMX racer, so BMX, cool. Like racing.
Mm-hmm. I
did that for most of my younger life, and then after that, I came to my parents and I was like, I'm kind of done facing and racing against the same people every weekend, so I'd like to kind of get a little bit of change. So what do you think about me starting to play baseball? And my mom was like, sure, you can go play baseball with your friends. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I want to play with friends and everything. And I got to the tryouts, and none of my friends made the team, and I made it. So that's when I kind of realized that maybe it's a gift for me, and I got to meet all my new friends, all those Leo Griffins, the Griffin family, the Will Labonte, I think you had him on the podcast last week. I've known him for a while now, so you get to meet so many people, and then look where we are all together in Okotoks, Alberta.
Very cool. Let's get into that. How did it come to be that you ended up going from Quebec and traveling all across the country to get to Okotoks?
So my best friend Leo Griffin, his brother came with us. I don't know if you remember Simone Buzignan and Nicholas Fortin and all those guys. They all came, the three of them together. Leo decided to head out west, and I was like, oh, I'd like to kind of follow it. And so I got invited to go and try out kind of like a camp kind of thing and visit the place. And I mean, I got there, I threw a bullpen, I hit, and I fielded some ground balls. And then after that, they were super interested, and me and my family kind of decided it's the best to find myself a scholarship in the U.S. and everything. So I decided to head out west, and you fall in love with the life in Alberta, right? Like the big field and all the $25 million facilities and the indoors and everything. You don't see that in Canada, in Quebec, and let alone almost in all of Canada a lot,
Was it difficult at all to make that transition? I mean, moving away from home is one thing when you're doing it a couple hours away. I know I did it for college, for example, and it felt like a million miles away. I can't imagine saying, let's go across the country and chase this dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing. And, when you're 15 years old to move away and your parents let you go, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. It's like, I'm going to make my bed in the morning and realize that my mom's not there to do anything else. So I kind of had to realize that, it's a lesson to me, and it's honestly the best thing that could have happened to me when I look back now, because once I head to college, my mom won't be there either. So I feel like it's kind of almost I don't know, I feel like it's an easier path for me to get to college than some other kids that will have to actually learn how to cook and know how to do those things. So to be alone, it's hard. You don't have, it's different with a billet family than with a actual, like, your mom and your dad, but you get to get used to the real life, and that my mom won't be there all my life.
Looking back on it, I mean, you're still in the midst of it, obviously, for the next few months here, but what has that program meant to you and been able to, not only just as a ball player, but also as a human being?
When I came and visited, the first thing they told me was, here, it's like a family. We're trying to get you to the next level, but we're also trying to get you to be a good man and a good husband and whatever in your future. And that's what really got my attention to this program. Is I realized that looking back now, they actually did more to help me in my actual normal life than with necessarily baseball. They've done tremendous things baseball wise. Like, they got me a college, they changed my swing. They made me a better player. They made me better defensively, better anywhere. But seriously, like, I'm like a new man. I came here as like a childish little, I was a 15-year-old, like any other 15-year-old. You don't expect much out of them, but they really changed me. And my dad said 2 days ago, he was like, you're as mature at 17 as I was at 22. So they really helped me become a man, and it's family for life.
That quote from your dad's got to mean the absolute world. That's pretty cool. So now all of a sudden you're getting yourself ready for graduation 2024, and then you head off to college. As mentioned, Oregon State is your destination. First off, what drew you to that program?
Okotoks and Oregon State are like very close. They have a very good connection. So when I got to the program, I saw all those guys going there, like Micah. I saw Gavin going there. I saw Connor Pote going there. I saw, so on and so on. And when I got to do my visit there, and I had a camp, I realized that they're really driven with the same ideas as Okotoks, the family side of things, and really help each other become good men and good husbands. So it's an awesome place, and I fell in love with the campus too. Oregon is beautiful. The weather, I mean, it's kind of like I see it as kind of like a Vancouver, but it's way smaller, but it's an awesome place to be.
Mm-hmm. Probably doesn't hurt as well knowing that they are a perennial powerhouse too. Like they are constantly in the running for the College World Series, for example. How excited are you for that opportunity to be at a big school program like that?
Yeah, I mean, getting to play them this year, you realize that you're going to a pretty big school, and the players there. I mean, Travis Bazana and those Trent Carraway, Gavin Turley, and all those guys that come out of this program. It's kind of, I mean, I don't realize it yet, but I think it means business. You're not going there to like joke around and have fun. You're going there for business, and once you step on campus, it's a whole different ball game. You're going there to win a national championship and prove that you can help a program make it back, because it's going to Oregon State. They've won 3 times in the new era, and to bring them back would be the biggest thing. Bring them back to this World Series caliber and national championship too.
Mm-hmm. So put on your scout hat for a minute here and evaluate yourself a little bit and see what your potential is. Do you see it? Where do you see yourself maybe getting to in terms of, the hierarchy of baseball? Do you see yourself going pro? Do you see yourself in MLB? What do you think is your ceiling?
To be honest, I don't have any expectations for myself. I'd rather just go year by year. Baseball's kind of a risky sport in the way that anytime anything could happen. Your arm could have issues and anything could happen. But I do, after this week in the States, you realize that I just played the best high school players in all of the United States, and I actually showed out like the best I could have ever. And it's comes out as you're actually one of the good players in like all of this tournament. So just to realize that I actually might have a shot at it, I definitely see myself making a run for it. Definitely.
Couple more for you before we let you go. A lot of kids right now getting their first, taste of the academy experience, or getting that first taste of baseball, and maybe looking at you and saying, I want to end up in his shoes one day. Looking back on it with 2020 hindsight through your own personal journey, what kind of advice or words of wisdom would you impart on those young kids just starting out on their journeys?
The biggest advice is keep your head up. Keep your head up. Just keep your shoulders straight. You hear it all the time. Believing in yourself is the biggest key to anything in life, and just keep your head up. Your coach is going to tell you something is wrong, and he's going to change it all. And you have to realize that if you keep your head up and you believe in them, you'll actually do great. And I think that's what most of us in Okotoks kind of realize, is that you just got to trust the process. And you hear that all the time as well. It's trust the process and good things will happen. So yeah, just keep your head up and you'll do good things.
One of the things that I'm getting from our conversation is you very much try to live in the moment. Is that a fair representation of who you are as a human being when it comes to playing the game of baseball? Yeah,
every aspect of my life is I live in the moment. I mean, my parents asked me, what are you going to do today? I'm like, whatever's coming my way. I can't tell you for sure what I'm doing today, but everything happens for a reason, and I just live day by day, and I live moment by moment, and everything that comes is a blessing to me. So
Looking back on this young journey to this point, and I know you've had a lot of highlights even this year, but you have any favorites, like moments where you stood there for a second and had to go, whoa, I can't believe I'm getting to do this?
My biggest moment of I went, wow, this is a tough one, because there's so many, you grow up, and I could say so many things, but definitely when you step on in the Rogers Center, and my first game I played at shortstop, I got to shortstop, and I told the first baseman, wait a minute, and I just did a whole like 360 just to realize, oh my God, Leo, you're actually playing at Rogers Center right now. So that would be a big wow moment. Or, I mean, there's a bunch of stories. I mean, facing Michael Yesachuk in Bantams, and now you look back now, and it's like he's one of the best arms in the country, and it's like, wow, we actually like we make it here and everything. So it's so many things.
I can only imagine, and the memories are just beginning, my friend. Final question for you. It's the one we ask everyone. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
The game of baseball actually means pretty much everything to me. I mean, I grew up around it. I didn't grow up around it, actually. I got myself into it, and, you know, it showed me so many good things. People kind of say that baseball's boring and baseball's this and that, but baseball will show you some, like, going 4 for 10 is actually really good, which in any other sport, going 4 for 10 is like below average, you know? So 4 for 10, you're an Hall of Famer, and even 3 for 10, you're an all-star. So, you know, it means to me what, like, I found kind of like love through it. You know, you fall in love with the game, and you always hear those romantic stories about, oh, how can you not love baseball? And it's like, now it's like, how can I actually not love baseball? It's so, I don't know, it's everything. I could get going for an hour and a half about it, but we'll just stick to I love the game, and it means everything.
We'll aim for an hour and a half the next time we have you on, Leo. Man, oh man, it's been fantastic
Right.
getting a chance to know you and get a chance to get to know your baseball journey here a little bit. Really appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the success you've had at this point. Continued success going forward in the Dominican Fall League and beyond. And thanks again for joining us here on the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me. And I mean, I listen to the podcast every week, so you guys are doing great. Keep going.
Next up is Sylvan Lake Gulls catcher and University of Mary veteran Ben Prediger. We first got to know him back in December 2018, aka Episode 5, when he was named the Baseball Alberta Midget-AAA Player of the Year as a member of the Calgary Bucks. This summer, he hit .323 with 15 RBI in 26 games for the Gulls and is hoping to be an even bigger piece of the U-Mary picture this coming spring. He's also become a bit of a social media machine, posting tons of content on Instagram about his workouts and more. So in between reps, we took some time to catch up. Ben, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Back at the University of Mary, getting ready for your 3rd season there. How are you feeling heading in?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. I just had a really good season last year for my junior year, and I'm hoping to build off that. And after a good summer, too, with the Gulls, I'm ready to get back to work. And team looks good this year. We're hoping to it's my senior year, so I'd love nothing more than just a conference championship win is kind of the goal at the end of the day. So, yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
Let's look back on this past year specifically, and we'll start in that spring. As you mentioned, .353, a homer, 13 RBI in 18 games. What do you feel you need to do to become an even bigger piece of the puzzle for 2024?
I think hit for more pop, a little more extra base hits is kind of what I've really been working towards. You know, I think last year I was like a big get on base kind of guy, and that was my approach, like no matter what, because I was hitting more in the bottom of the order, and I've always been a defense first guy personally. So I mean, maybe a little bit more pop in the bat would be good, because, you know, I can't be clogging up the base pass with my cement legs that I got going on. But, you know, I think that's kind of more what I've been tailoring towards too this year. But ideally, I'd love to keep that average on the same. And getting on base has always been my goal. Like my favorite movie is Moneyball, and they say the way to score runs is to get on base. And I believe that firmly. You know, if you're not getting on base, you're not given potential for your team to score runs. That's kind of something that I wholeheartedly live by, and I'm going to definitely keep that in the approach. But definitely try to cut the strikeouts down a little bit and hit the ball a little harder and a little farther is kind of the goal this year.
So walk us through a typical day in the life of someone going through the post-secondary walk, I guess, through heading into the spring. Are you playing fall ball games? Are you doing showcases? Are you focusing on training and strength? Like, walk us through that typical day in the fall season as you look forward to the spring.
Yeah, I think it's kind of varied year by year depending on like where I was at personally. I'd say my first year back here at Mary, like my first year here, which would have been 2021, if I'm correct on that timeline. But that was more, I wanted to put on more strength and gain more mass. So like and like develop personally. So that was kind of more of like our program. And like the great thing about Mary is it's a lot of player development focus, which is so nice to have. And like, don't get me wrong, we still focus on the team aspect, and we are here to win and we are here to compete. But when we're in the off season, it's a lot of tailoring towards like what the individual needs. So then my first year was a lot of like put on mass, put on strength as a young kid does. And then getting into my last year, junior year, it was more towards like moving faster and like getting into positions that I need to be. And it was more like competing in the box and like on defense. And we do play scrimmages. We played NDSU, a D1 team this year, and we played them last year too. Scrimmage Minot State, our in-state rivals, as well as a junior college here at Bismarck State, which also holds a ton of Albertans too, which I find so neat, but that's neither here nor there. And then, yeah, it's, we're going into fall ball right now. I know the NCAA gives you like 20-hour weeks is what it's called. So right now we're in our 20-hour weeks, which is like we team practice 3 times a week, 2 individual practices, and then 2 days off, as well as weight training in between then. And it's right now for me, my focus is on just keeping my swing patterns the same as I was and still trying to maintain the body weight that I'm at, but as well gaining strength and gaining speed while trying to, like I said, maintain that body weight, because I find that once you get through this game more and more, you kind of find where you need to be physically and like where you need to be mentally. And I'm kind of as much as I hate to say it, I'm getting old, so I'm kind of a veteran now, but I mean, I find that now I know exactly where I need to be going into a season after having like a really good season like I did last year, and what I need to feel going into it. So yeah, a lot of it's just kind of tailoring towards my body, and just like staying healthy is kind of the biggest one too. I'm not trying to do too much, because like our coach always says, you can't win a national championship in the fall, but you damn sure can lose one. So that's kind of the goal, is just trying to take it day by day and not doing too much, but not doing too little, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I know you said that it's neither here nor there, but at the same time, it's got to be kind of cool. I mean, Mary's got its fair share of guys who've played either at Vauxhall or up in Okotoks or wherever the case may be. You play against a lot of guys who've travel familiar paths as well, especially when you think about the WCBL as an example. How cool is it to be able to see some familiar faces and be able to, chat it up with some of those guys, especially when things are a little bit slower in the fall?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's one of the coolest things like ever, and it's something that my American teammates can't really grasp, I guess you could say, because like baseball players from Canada playing collegiate baseball in the States is such a niche thing and such like a tight-knit community, if that makes sense. So like I played quite a few showcases with like BLE or just a bunch of different teams going around, and I ended up playing with like guys from different provinces too, who I play with now, like Josh Walker, Dylan Edmonds, guys like that. And like playing against Haney and everyone in the WCBL it's so sweet, because like they're some of my closest friends, and then like you get to compete against each other, and it's just it's such a good atmosphere, and like it's really, I could say, comforting, I guess, when you know people of like the same, who have been through the same thing and are going through the same thing as you. I remember when I went to JUCO my first year at Northeast Community College in Nebraska, and I was one of 2 Canadians there, and there wasn't a lot of empathy, you could say, for the situation that I was in, because no one really understood, like, you're so far away from home and you're so young doing this, but being surrounded by a bunch of guys who are in the same situation and who have done the same things as you, and like, the same groups of people, like there's like a comfort level to that, and it almost makes Bismarck feel like a second home for me.
Mm-hmm. I know it's early, but what do you see when you look at this Mary team heading into the spring?
I see a really good pitching staff and dudes who can swing it. That's really what I see. I see that we definitely got some things that we got to work on, some like monotonous little details, but I think that we are putting ourselves in a very good chance to compete. And I firmly believe that the NSIC is one of the most competitive Division II baseball conferences in the nation. And I say that with full confidence because, like, you go into a Saturday game and, like, game one starters rolling out, like, 93, 94, and then game two is not much easier, you know, and it's very competitive on a daily basis. And it's just baseball at the end of the day, too. Like, anyone could win any game, you know. We got a really big conference, 14 teams, so you got to stay locked in. And it's really difficult to get through that schedule, too, being a northern team. Like, we're playing on the road. We play, like, a lot of our home games on the road, too, because, like, the snow and impeding weather and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I find that we instill, like, a sense of grit in our program and, like, a sense of integrity within us where we have a chip on our shoulder being like, yeah, we are a northern school, but we're going to come here and we're going to ball out, you know. And I feel like this year we have a really big group of seniors, like a big chunk of our starting lineup from last year is coming back this year too, with like the loss of a couple key players, but I think we filled those roles pretty well. And I think that we are going to show up and we're going to compete and ideally turn some heads this year.
You mentioned the summer and a really solid summer with Sylvan Lake Gulls again. And aside from the playing side of it, I've taken a few Gulls games over the course of the season in various capacities. And one of the things that I took away from watching you specifically is you really seem to enjoy playing here at home. There's a certain, I'll call it a vibe between you and the fan base in Sylvan Lake as an example. How much pride do you put into that and being able to sort of celebrate being one of the hometown quote unquote guys?
It's really big and it's really important for me. And I feel like it's deeper than just being a hometown guy. Like, my mom's from Central Alberta. She's from Macomb, and I got a lot of family and like a lot of family friends there. So okay. I get like a lot of like people that I know and love and support from all those people. And also just like with the aspect of my parents too, like they've only seen me play maybe 5 college baseball games in my entire career. So for them to see me compete at the highest level is like such a big deal for me. But I think in terms of my relationship between me and the fans of Sylvan and the community that they have, I find it's really easy to come and show up and compete every day and like work my tail off as hard as I can, because it's just like the retrospection of like these people, they care about the program, and it stems from like the owners and like Graham and Jen and Akil and all the other owners of how much effort and time they really put into them doing this right and making sure like everything they do is in accordance to the fans and to the players. And like, I personally believe it'd be incredibly selfish of me if I showed up and gave just a half-ass effort, you know. And I find that I owe it to those people, because I'm not sure if you know, I wasn't necessarily supposed to play for Sylvan Lake when I first got there. I was only on a 10-day contract, and through a fortunate series of events, I ended up staying the whole year, and as well as like playing quite well for them and getting asked to come back the following year. And I find I was so lucky to get that experience, and I was so lucky just to be there, that I owe it to Chatty, I owe it to Graham, Jen, Akil, everyone, the fans, that I got to show up and give my best every single day. And as well as the kids and the people who look up to you, you know. And I always find it so surreal, because like in my eyes, I'm just a nobody. Like, I'm literally some guy, you know, and to some kids that I'm a role model to them. And I think that I need to show up and give my best effort and give my best face every single day, just so I can be a good leader and a good role model for these kids and for the community. And like, they've done nothing but great things for me and my family and like everything. So I just love to show up and compete for them and ideally bring back a championship one day.
Well, and obviously you fell a little bit short of that this year, another epic series against the Okotoks Dogs. And it's pretty clear to me anyways that the rivalry with the Dogs, albeit short, is really there. How fun is it to be at field level in the dugout with this rivalry that's been budding for a couple of years now?
It's something that you can't really put into words. If I'm being honest, I feel like, especially for me being like a hometown guy, and it definitely stems deeper than what it is. I find that it's just going into the series, you always know it's a big series, and being able, it's always back to that old saying, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. You know what I mean? And I think there's something in playing the best level of competition that brings out who you are as a competitor and who you are as an athlete. And I think that it's such an incredible atmosphere that, like, on both sides, like, everyone's chirping and everyone is just giving it their best. And like, there's true emotion that comes into those games. And it's, like I said, it's something I can't necessarily really put into words, but it's always such a great series. And like, I love playing Okotoks, and I love beating Okotoks even more. So yeah.
So when you look back on this last year and even the year prior, and then now you look ahead to this coming 2024 summer season, what do you think it's going to take to overtake Okotoks?
I think we just got to play our game. You know, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that Okotoks ever beat us. I know that's going to be a controversial statement through my friends on the team, but I know quite a few of those players, and like, I'm quite close with all the Dawgs players. So shout out Brendan Luther and all the boys. You guys are great dudes. But I do necessarily think that we never play to our fullest potential against them. And like, there are times where we do, and the scores speak for themselves. But I definitely, looking back on all the games, there are times where we just give up a run at the wrong time, bobble a ball, like untimely hitting. And I think we psych ourselves out given how big the moment is. And I think it's just, we play to our fullest potential. There's no doubt in my mind that we could be WCBL champions.
Oh, I can't wait for 2024 already, man. I got this feeling about it. But
you and me both.
Let's look back a little bit here. You and I were chatting off air about this. Last time we had you on was in like the infancy of this podcast. Episode 5, you were fresh off being named the Alberta Midget-AAA Player of the Year. In your eyes, being that it was 5 years ago, how far have you come since that point?
I think I've grown a substantial amount. I think I've grown mentally, physically, like spiritually, everything. I think that it was a good year that I have, but like, when you're young and you're 18, you think you know everything, and then you get to college baseball and you come to realize you don't really know anything at all. And I think that, yeah, there's just been a huge level of growth. And I think it's neat that you mentioned that, because I remember me and my mom having a conversation before we drove down to Bismarck, and it was after the WCBL season. We were just kind of sitting there chatting, and she was asking me, she's like, do you notice that, like, you feel like you've gotten better like every year that you're playing? And I really noticed that, especially this year, moreover, that like the maturity in my approach, and then how I take failure and how I go about my daily business and what I need to do. And I think it comes from an understanding of yourself, and I think it comes through failure, you know. And I remember my first year here at Mary, I definitely had my struggles and like through the trials and tribulations of baseball. And I believe that through those struggles, I developed so much. I don't even know how to put it. I just developed more introspective realization of myself, if you could put it that, is that I realized like where I'm weak, and that's where I need to go from there, and like what I need to grow with. And I believe that from that time I've grown a substantial amount, and I hope to only keep going up as years come on and see where this game can take me.
Whether it be as a ball player or as a human being, when you think back on these last 5 years, what have you learned about yourself in that time?
I have learned an incredible amount about myself. I've learned the list goes on if you got 30 minutes, but if I was to give you a short answer here, I think overcoming failure and not letting those little things get to me. I don't think, I think that's the biggest thing as a baseball player, and that the maturity level that comes with it is that I used to let a strikeout ruin my day, and a day at the plate. And that can transition into your life. Like if you have a bad morning, that might transition into a bad day, or a bad day turns into a bad week, month, year, etc. And our coach always says, weather the storm. And I have really found what he means by that, where a bad day doesn't mean bad life, or not letting things compound on top of each other. And I also think just the other biggest piece of growth is that college baseball, and I guess the maturation of it, is time management and knowing what you need to do and prioritizing the big things over the small mundane things. Although those are important, but I believe that you got to recognize what is most important in your life and what your priorities are. And if you want to make it somewhere and you want to do something with whatever endeavor that you're in, you got to prioritize the biggest parts of your life. And for me right now, that's baseball. And although I am a student athlete and I take my academics very seriously, I know that I need to get my extra hitting sessions in. I need to do my mobility. I got to make sure I'm getting enough sleep at night, fueling my body correctly through the intense schedule that we're on, and prioritizing the big things for the bigger picture, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It segues really well into my next question, and it's to those who are maybe starting out on their baseball journeys here in Alberta or anywhere else they might be listening, and they're looking at you going, hey, I want to follow his path one day. Do you have a piece of advice or words of wisdom for them who are just trying to start out on their journeys, and maybe you've got the benefit of that 2020 hindsight now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have talked to a few kids. When I go back, I've started hitting at the Weber Academy. Beautiful facility, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you've gotten a chance to go check that out, it's insane. But when I go back and I hit in the winter, I get to talk to all these high school players and even at Sylvan, and all these kids who look up to not only me, but guys like Cleary and people who have made it in the college baseball world. I think the biggest couple pieces of advice I could give is, one, get in the weight room. I really regret not doing that at a young age, because it is such a foundational piece of baseball, is just getting that level of absolute strength that, you see in the major leagues nowadays, everyone's throwing 95. An 84 mile an hour fastball isn't going to cut it nowadays. Mm-hmm. Dudes are hitting 500-foot home runs, and everyone's just getting bigger and stronger. So the earlier that you can get in the weight room and start making those physical adaptations, that will only benefit you in the long run. And not only that, I think just getting in the habit of that will help you for life. Maintaining a good level of fitness, maintaining your health, living a long, prosperous life. I think that is so important for not only your physical health, but for your mental health as well. And I think that kind of segues into my next piece, is that the mental side of baseball is so much more important than the physical side of baseball. You can have the best swing in the entire world, but if you are a head case, then you will not be able to succeed. And that's just the game of baseball. Like I said earlier, dealing with failure, and that's honestly been the biggest contributor to my success, is modalities such as meditation, yoga, mindfulness, all things like that. I think that has contributed tenfold to my success. And I think if there was anything that you could do just on a daily basis, is just learning how to visualize, learning how to be a viewer of your thoughts and not just let your emotion overtake you. And I think the last biggest thing is just have fun with it, and now that I'm in my 5th year, I realized going back on it, I took it so seriously, and I took baseball as my everything, it is a big part of my life, I guess you can say. And without that passion, you probably won't be as far as you can go, but you got to realize that there are bigger things to life than baseball. Make sure you are taking care of those around you. Tell your mom and dad that you love them every day. Be grateful for the little things that come, and just be happy that you're still playing the game. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to and I'm implementing in my life now, is that just even going to practice, like I got friends who are working 9 to 5s every single day at my age, and I'm 22 years old still playing baseball, like just having fun with it, you know, and I gotta recognize how lucky and how blessed I am just for this opportunity to be able to do the thing that I love each and every single day, and just take every moment as it comes and be grateful for it. So yeah, that's kind of my biggest pieces of advice.
And if you need any proof of what Ben is talking about, all you need to do is check out his Instagram, because whether he's showing off what he's doing in the weight room on his stories, or even some of the posts and some of the fun he's having, the duds that you rocked in the walk-up photos with the Gulls during the summer, man, oh man, you enveloped all of the fun and living in the moment, so kudos to you on that. Final question for you here, Ben, before we let you go. It's one we ask everyone, and we didn't get a chance to ask you this back on episode 5 because it wasn't something that I pre-thought of before then. At that point, what does the game of baseball mean to you?
Oh, game of baseball! Wow, what a loaded question you just hit me with. I think the game of baseball to me means family. I think I've met my best friends, the people who are going to be at my wedding. It is run through my blood, through, like, as you know, my great grandpa's in the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame for baseball, and I think it means family to me. I think I've been able to make an impact on other people's lives, and in turn, people have made such a great impact on my life through the game of baseball, and I think it's given me an outlet to travel and see the world and go places that I never thought I would ever see in my entire life, like living in North Dakota or driving through Wyoming. I never thought I would do that, but here I am.
Very cool.
I would say it means family to me, because I met the best people I've ever met in my entire life, and I've made friends for life through this game.
It's been fantastic getting to watch your journey over the last 5 years or so when we first got to chat with you, and always glad to catch up again. Can't wait to do it again before too long here, Ben. Congrats on all the success you've had at this point. Continued success going forward, and thanks again for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a blast. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Finally, speaking of catching up, it's been a while since we chatted with Josh Burgmann, a 5th-round pick of the Chicago Cubs in the 2019 MLB draft. The Vauxhall Academy of Baseball product had his pro baseball journey come to a halt due to injury and the pandemic after a stellar post-secondary career at the University of Washington. He decided to head to the front office in both hockey and baseball, serving as the pitching coach of the Lethbridge Bulls this summer, and he's also the head scout and director of player personnel for the BCHL's Nanaimo Clippers. Josh, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining us again.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on here, Joe.
It's been a long time since we last chatted on the podcast. I had to actually look back. It's been over 200 episodes. Episode 36 was the last time you'd appeared. A few episodes before. You'd just been drafted by the Chicago Cubs, and life has certainly changed since that day back in 2019. You're now the head scout and director of player personnel with the BCHL's Nanaimo Clippers. First off, how did that opportunity all come about?
Yeah, so I was actually down in Arizona at the time in early part of 2021, and I was down there. I was dealing with a little bit of an injury at the time, which I thought was a little bit of an injury at the time. But I reached out to them. It was actually my wife that encouraged me, because I wasn't doing much. Obviously it was mainly just go to the field, do your thing for a couple hours a day, and then come back to the hotel, and then I'd be in my hotel by myself and just hanging out. Wanted something to do to kind of break up some of that time. And, I was a hockey player growing up. I always had a ton of interest in the game of hockey. And, I always wanted to get into the hockey operations side if I ever stopped playing the game. So I ended up emailing the assistant coach that was there at the time, who's now the head coach and GM. And I reached out and just was interested in helping them from the scouting perspective a little bit. I watched some tournaments, guys that they might be interested in terms of recruits. I sent in some reports, and they liked what I had to say, and they always want extra help from the scouting perspective. And at that time, there wasn't much in terms of going into rinks, so it was all just watching over video and all that stuff. So it was actually something that was something I was really intrigued by, and I took a job with them, and it kind of just kept progressing from there. In about a short few months, I had the title of one of their head scouts, or the head scout. The recent title of director of player personnel has been added on here recently, but I've been working with them now for, I guess, it's almost coming up on 3 years here now, and I've been enjoying it. I really like it. And I always said to myself I wanted to get back in the game of hockey, if I stopped playing baseball. And it was something that, was a pretty easy choice and easy decision. And, I like I said, I've been really enjoying the job. I love going to the rinks and, go out watching hockey. It's something, I really like to do. And, it's been great.
Has hockey ops always been in your toolbox, or is that something you started dreaming up when you were in college? Because I seem to remember you being like a communications major and maybe looking at sports journalism at one point.
Yeah, that was something I thought about potentially. I kind of went into university kind of open-minded about what I was going to do. I didn't end up going into the communications side. I ended up looking at the psychology side of things, took a couple courses in that. Ended up not going that route. I ended up actually going into the education side of things.
Okay.
I obviously, playing pro ball, I didn't end up finishing my degree. I'm still to be determined whether I'm going to go back and finish that degree. But hockey, from the hockey ops side, it was something that I always, was very intrigued by. I've always been a hockey nerd. Always followed the game, love, analytics, statistics, all that kind of stuff from the hockey side of things. It's always something that I've followed. I've seen, kids that I played with, at my age, that went on to go play, went to different routes, right? I've seen guys that have went and played in the BCHL and went on to have good college careers at, the NCAA Division I hockey level. And then also guys that, went to the Western Hockey League and, went on to pro hockey and, some playing in the NHL now. So, it's just something that I've always been passionate about. Building and recruiting is something that, I'm really intrigued by, and creating those relationships with these kids that, have big aspirations of playing Division I hockey, because that's, the main goal for the BCHL is to move guys on to the NCAA Division I level. And, it's awesome. I get to talk with all different kinds of kids that come from, different parts of, North America. And now obviously with the new rules in the BCHL, kids that come over from Europe too as well. So it's a pretty cool job. And, like I said, get to talk to all different types of kids and, different walks of life. So, it's definitely something that, I've really thoroughly enjoyed, since I've taken the job.
Very cool. So give us a scouting report on the Clippers right now. What kind of team are you icing this year, and what's your expectation heading into the season?
Yeah, no, we have a really, really good team. I think, we're a little bit on the younger side. We didn't have as many, returning players, but now with the BCHL leaving Hockey Canada, we were free to sign kids from any junior A league. So we did sign a few kids to bring in a little bit of experience to our club. We really like our team. I think, we have a lot of, I think we're going to score by committee. We don't have, that one, superstar offensive player that's going to, light up the league in terms of numbers. I think we have a lot of, parts to a puzzle that we really, really like. And, I think the expectation with our group and in Nanaimo over, always is the long standing is that, we're a winning organization, and that's not changing this year. It's not going to change next year or in the future. We put together a team, and, we want to win a championship every year, but, we understand at the same time, it's about developing these kids, both on the ice, but also off the ice, and make sure that they're getting the exposure they need, to the Division I level. And, we're really excited about the group we have, not only, the group that we have this year and the potential players that we could have coming back next year, but, we're really excited about the group this year and, expect, another championship run this year.
Very cool. Now, speaking of hockey, the NHL season also got underway last night as we record this. Chicago taking on Pittsburgh. A bit of a passing of the torch, so to speak, with Connor Bedard facing off against Sidney Crosby right off the bat. Any bold predictions you want to share with us?
Yeah, I fully expect him to have, a pretty big year. I know going from junior to the NHL level is definitely a tough adjustment. I think in terms of what he's going to do this year, I think he's going to pick his teeth on the power play because of the way that he shoots the puck and thinks the game. Obviously, like any young player, the adjustment to 5-on-5 is going to be a little bit more difficult with the physicality and the speed and all that. But I really believe, he's a special talent. He's going to be a great player in the league for a long, long time. And I, see him scoring 60 goals here sooner rather than later. So, but yeah, no, in terms of the NHL, I'm really excited. I'm a Canucks fan, at heart, obviously being a BC boy and being an Island kid. So I'm really excited to watch them this year. They made a lot of moves over the off season that are pretty intriguing. But it's the Canucks, so sometimes it goes good and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see. It's going to be a great year. I love watching the NHL. In my opinion, it's one of the best professional sports leagues that you can watch, and it's so entertaining, especially when it comes playoff time. So no, I'm really excited for this year and what's to come for the NHL season.
If you had to put down a $5 wager on a team right now, who's winning the Stanley Cup?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Honestly, I think at some point here the Oilers got to take that next step and become a Stanley Cup contender, and I think they were last year. But I think going through it a little bit now, I like their mix. I like what they have. It sucks being a Canucks fan to say this, but no, I honestly could see them potentially winning the Cup this year, and I think that'd be great for them. Going through the years that they had and all the number one draft picks and all this stuff, and for McDavid and Draisaitl and all those guys that are there, I think it would be pretty special for them. So yeah, honestly, if I had to put a $5 bet down, I would say the Oilers. I think if Jack Campbell can bounce back, they'll have a good goaltending duo there, and yeah, I'm excited to watch them play this year.
I feel your pain as a Flames fan, although I'm sure our Ian Wilson will be really happy with your prediction just based on the fact that he's a longtime Oilers fan.
Yeah.
So, moving on a little bit, this is a baseball podcast after all, so let's get into that a little bit. You haven't abandoned the game. You were the pitching coach of the Lethbridge Bulls this summer. Let's talk about that. And Vauxhall, you were coaching at as well. That's how you got into that side of the game. How important was it for you to stay connected in the game after you left?
Yeah, no, I think it was very important for me. I still love the game of baseball. I still really enjoy the coaching aspect of it too. So I think, for me, it was something that I wanted to be able to share my experiences with these kids. Obviously coaching at Vauxhall after I was done playing was really important to share some of my, like I said, experiences of the highs and lows. I've been through the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. So it was important for me to have those kids understand that you got to kind of stay that even keel and not get too high and too low. So it's been really important to give back and make sure that, I'm doing the best I can to make sure that the next generation of baseball players, are going to be, the best versions of themselves. And I want to help with that. So, and it was a really cool experience this summer with the Bulls. Obviously, a little bit of a different change of pace, going from the high school level to the collegiate level, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. Just the level of thinking of the game is different. And, I went through it, from the collegiate level playing myself, and then, but I haven't been around, that high level, of baseball in a little bit. And I really enjoyed that. And, I'm hoping to continue to do that this summer. And it looks like that's going to happen and get to coach there this summer again. So I'm really excited for that.
You also got a chance, front row seat, to see a perfect game or near perfect game with Javier De Alejandro. Walk us through that outing from your perspective and what you saw from what he was dealing.
Yeah, no, it was exceptional. I told Javi after the game, I said, I've been around some amazing pitching performances. I've seen a perfect game. I've witnessed a perfect game. And, that was, if not, better or right up there in terms of, the performance. He was just totally dialed in complete control, 100% the entire game. You could kind of see it. I was in the bullpen with him before the game, and you could see he was just dialed in. Like everything was, perfectly hit to a spot. And, I kind of said it to our guys. I said he threw an exceptional bullpen. A lot of times it works, it could work in different ways in baseball. Some guys, starting pitchers, they throw the best bullpen of their life, and then they come in the game and throw their worst games, and vice versa. You throw a bad one and a bad bullpen, and then you come in the game and you're exceptional during the game. But, he was, like I said, dialed in from pitch one to however many he threw, like pitch, I don't know what it was, 105 or whatever.
105, something like that.
Yeah. he was just in complete control, and it was just utter dominance from, like I said, pitch 1 to 105. So it was exceptional. It was one of the best performances I've seen personally myself live.
You threw your share of great performances as well. It's been, as you mentioned, a whirlwind over the last 3, 4, 5 years here. Let's talk about the decision to hang him up. You get drafted in 2019. Things are going well, and then the pandemic hits. Talk us through that and then the subsequent challenges that lie ahead for your baseball journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the pandemic was hard on everybody. We were getting ready for spring training and getting geared up to go for spring training. And, it hits and we were told to head home and that it might be a couple weeks, it might be a month, but everybody was kind of staying ready to play once again that year. Right. So I headed home and, kind of as the year went on and on and on, it wasn't really looking like anything was going to happen or things were going to change. And obviously that year got ripped away from everybody. So, that was more difficult to be able to have that realization that, okay, I'm taking another year, another step back, another year away from reaching my goal of playing in the big leagues, which was difficult, obviously. But then 2021 rolls around. I'm really excited. Everybody's excited to get going again. And I was, gearing up for the season and feeling good. Velo was up and I was feeling strong and ready to go for the year. And I started throwing in live BPs right before, we were about to get into games for spring training, and I started to have a little bit of a shoulder flare up, and it kind of just, lingered and kept going on. The minor league season started and I stayed back in Arizona and couldn't figure out kind of what was going on. Tried to do just rest and recovery and rehab first. That didn't end up working. And then I would I did end up doing a cortisone shot and then recover from that, and that didn't end up working. And, the most frustrating part was I, got back into throwing shape, and as soon as I was about to get back on the mound, that's when my pain started to come back on my shoulder. Eventually it got to the point where we kind of, came to the conclusion that I tried a PRP injection in my shoulder, and that effectively ended my season in 2021. Which was a very difficult year, not only physically, going through, the highs and lows of, okay, I'm ready and I'm get going and throwing again and feeling good. And then the sudden low of, okay, the pain comes back. Why does it keep coming back and all that? And then, so I ended up having the PRP, very difficult as well mentally, like I said, very hard on, not being able to see, my family, not being able to see my wife, was also very difficult being away from home, for 8 months in the 45-degree weather down in Arizona. Was, it took a toll on me, and probably reached the lowest point of my life, honestly, Joe, to be honest with you. And it was very difficult for me to come out of that. But I ended up having this PRP injection. I came home, which, was nice, and did all my full rehab. Was able to kind of feel like I got a reset a little bit. And then I started throwing once again, getting ready for the season, ramping up, and kind of as I was ready to up my intensity in my throwing kind of in the early part of January, mid-January, the pain started to come back in my shoulder in early part of 2022. And then I ended up, telling the Cubs, and they flew me down to Arizona and ended up having an MRI, this time with like the dye, which makes the picture a little clearer. And sure enough, in my shoulder, there's a labrum tear that I needed to have fixed. And there was really no other option other than to have the surgery. So at that point, it was kind of decision time about, where life was going to go for me. What did I want to endure? From a mental perspective, physically, I felt like I could come back and pitch again, but it was, I had family back home, and, life as a minor league baseball player isn't the easiest lifestyle. And whether I wanted to go through that, again, and be down in Arizona again for a full year rehabbing, because it would have been another full year to come back from the labrum tear. And, so I ended up deciding to retire, and, I have no regrets. Obviously I love the game. I love what, the game gave me personally. I got to travel around the world. I got to play against some of the, the greatest players and players that you see on TV now today playing the postseason, like Adley Rutschman and those types of guys. So, I'm grateful for my time that I played. And like I said, I wouldn't change anything about my playing career, and I wouldn't change anything about my decision that I made now. I'm really happy about where I am in life. I bought a house 6 months ago and, live in Lethbridge and, really enjoy life right now of, coaching the Bulls and, scouting. And I'm an advisor for a hockey company down in the U.S. based out of Minnesota as a consultant. So I have, my own clients that I help and try to have them pursue their dreams of junior A hockey and then onto the NCAA level as well. So, so I really enjoy where I'm at right now in life.
Very cool to hear. It's been a crazy journey. Looking back on it, you mentioned the mental side of things. How did you get through some of that challenge? Because as you mentioned, the physical side is one thing. It's another on the mental side. Do you lean on anyone in particular? Do you go through some of those practices and things that you learned when you're going through the college philosophy side of things? Like, what was it that helped you get through?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of, the people in my inner circle. Obviously, being able to, I wasn't able to see some of these people every single day, but the beauty of technology and be able to FaceTime and do all those sorts of things was definitely something that obviously helped me. Being able to talk to my wife on a daily basis really helped, and be able to talk to my family and the people that I really trusted, former coaches, and have them, to lean on and be able to go through those things. And as well as the players that were in the organization at the time that were going through injuries as well, like they were going through the same thing I was, right? So be able to go in there and chat with those guys every single day and be able to share stories and just, kind of keep it light was something that was nice as well. But yeah, just being able to lean on the people in my inner circle, my family. And that was something that really helped me kind of get through. And, it obviously came to the decision that I did. And like I said, I couldn't be in a better spot right now in my life, going from, one of the worst spots I've been to now really, really happy and excited about the future and what's to come.
Let's talk about that future for a second. Do you see yourself getting back into the baseball coaching or management side at some point down the line, or do you think hockey is going to be the game?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy what I'm doing now on the advising side and helping kids, and really like doing that and helping them. It's something, like I said, I tell my guys all the time, I had an agent advisor growing up through baseball, and he really helped me profoundly, not only on the field, but off the field as well with everything. And I wanted to bring that into the hockey circle. I really enjoy that. I'm kind of just living in the present right now with that and seeing where that's going to take me. Who knows where that's going to lead down the road. But just really enjoying that right now. Obviously, like I said, I want to continue to do the Bulls in the summer. It's kind of nice. It's broken up into 2 seasons for me, with the hockey in the winter and spring. And then there's a little bit of downtime in the summer where I can do the coaching with the Bulls and I'm not too overextended. I've also, accepted a job to go help at the Prairie Baseball Academy here in Lethbridge. So I've been helping them too. And they understand, my commitment to the hockey side of things as well. But, I'm still helping them, with their pitchers and all their players and all that stuff. So I'm really enjoying that too, my first year there. So, I don't know. We'll see where it goes from I think, right now I really love what I'm doing from the hockey side. And, I kind of, like I said, get kind of the balance of the best of both worlds right now. And, who knows where that's going to lead. But, right now in the present, I'm just really enjoying, what I'm doing from the hockey and the baseball side. So it's been great.
Very cool. A couple final questions for you here. One has to do, especially with that piece, whether you're coaching at Vauxhall or with PBA or with the Bulls, or you're talking to the young kids getting in there in the hockey sphere. Do you have advice or words of wisdom for them in terms of, taking advantage of the opportunities presented to them, or things that you learned along the way that you'd like to impart on them?
Yeah, I think it's just mainly about the work ethic from a day in, day out perspective, is not to, try to keep everything in, the short-minded view. Sometimes kids can get lost in, the big picture a little bit. Obviously, at the end of the day, we you have a goal that you want to reach, but it's all about what are you going to do in that moment or on that day to get to that goal. So I try to make sure that kids understand that and try to keep everything in perspective and keep everything in a smaller, window and a smaller view, so that they're not getting too ahead of themselves and they're not getting too, either high or low, disappointed or over the moon excited about everything, right? It's about keeping everything in perspective and making sure that, they're doing the work from, a day-to-day perspective to get to that goal. It's not about, it's about how you're going to get there, not about, getting there. So that's something I like to make sure everybody knows. And whether it's, from any sport, it should be something that it should be achieved for, is the small goals to reach the big goal. Is keep everything kind of small right now and get to the big picture later. So yeah, that's something I try to make sure everybody knows.
Absolutely love it. The final question is one we ask everyone. It started after our last chat, so this will be the first time you get to hear this question. What does this game of baseball mean to you?
It means a lot. It's brought me so many different places. It's brought me to, so many different experiences, different journeys. I've represented my country. I've, played, at one of the premier Pac-12, Division I conferences of the University of Washington. It's brought me to one of the premier high school academies in all of Canada. I truly, if I didn't play the game of baseball, I wouldn't have met, the love of my life. I met her at Vauxhall, and, we were high school sweethearts. And so I have a lot of gratuity for the game. It's, like I said, it's taught me so many different things in life, and how to handle adversity, how to handle failure, how to handle success, and just be grounded through all those things. So yeah, that's the game of baseball has given me so much. And like I said before, I feel like I owe it to give some back. And, I feel like I'm doing that. And I think, yeah, gratuity is just the word. I'm just very grateful about everything that the game has given me.
And we are certainly grateful for all the time that you've been able to give us over the course of not just this conversation, but also being able to keep in touch over the years, watching your journey unfold as it has, Josh. Really appreciate the catch-up. Congratulations on the new journey, continued success going forward in it and beyond. And again, thank you so much again for joining us here on the podcast.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Joe, for having me. You guys are doing an awesome job of promoting baseball in Alberta and all of Canada. I just want to say that, and you guys just do a fantastic job. So keep doing what you guys are doing, because everybody really enjoys your guys' content.
Thanks again to Leo Cote, Ben Prediger, and Josh Burgmann for joining us this week, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. If you like this or any other episode, be sure to leave us a rating and review, as those actions help spread the word about ADS. A massive tip of the cap as well to our Platinum supporters for all they do for us and for baseball in Alberta. The Okotoks Dawgs and AHP Academy have been integral in helping us tell the game stories in our province. For more on our sponsors, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.